Well, hey guys, Guido. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys have a good weekend. We're going to mess around with some more DCS landings and talk about some of the things I've learned. Probably practice these maybe, I don't know, a week ago. I haven't touched it for 4 or 5 days. I just did a couple a moment ago. But I did do a little studying on it and learned a few things kind of interesting. So the first thing I learned is I only have the Stennis, which is one aircraft carrier. I put a different aircraft carrier in and it didn't work. So I do not have the Super Carrier DLC, which I should get. That's for you guys that are World of Tanks, primarily DCS, kind of monetizes their game in a similar fashion to World of Tanks in that you buy modules of different airplanes. So it's like buying tanks. They don't have a whole lot of free tanks and they don't have a tech tree, but there you have it. The way they monetize is you buy the airplanes. I think it comes with 2 or 3 free ones. I can't remember which ones. But I have the Hornet, the Viper, the Eagle, I think a P-51 and a Spitfire or something like that. I do not have the Super Carrier. I learned that because I couldn't communicate with the carrier. I built a mission. The mission's kind of a super mission. I have different things set around so I can practice different things. As a matter of fact, while I'm doing the carrier landings, I think the bandits are flying around out there. So if I'm flying around enough, they'll eventually find me. I think they have to go to a waypoint, and then I think they're off the leash, and they probably come after me. I'm unarmed, so that's going to be a problem. But they're so far away, it won't matter. So I put a carrier out there, and the first carrier I put was one I didn't have, and it wouldn't talk to me. I was going through the whole F1 blah blah, the internal communication that the game has, and could not get the thing to answer me. And then typey had to do some Google foo and found out that all those other carriers you don't have. So there you have it. Very cool. All right, so I have set up this thing. I'm a 5-6 mile final, something like that, maybe 2 or 3 miles. We're going to do a couple landings. I've kind of learned how to do a sort of touch and go. I'm sure it's not to NATOPS standard what I'm going to do, but it allows me to fly around a little bit more. And I have coffee, as it is Saturday morning. It's not true. It's not Saturday morning. Also, too, and in addition to, I have a new camera. Let me know how it's working out. I've messed around a little bit. Every once in a while, it gets a weird, I don't know, there it is. You just saw it in the corner. What? I can't figure out for the life of me why it's doing what it's doing. But let's get started, and we'll check out some of the landings. Actually, before we get started, one thing I did want to show you is what I'm working with here is a little bit limited. I've got a Thrustmaster set up, so it's only one handle. I don't have split throttles. Obviously, the F-18 has 2 engines. Not a big deal on the landing piece, but would be nice to upgrade that at some point. And then I've got the old Thrustmaster stick as well. So it's got some decent amount of HOTAS on it. Both of them do, but it's not perfect. Also, they're just sitting right here in front of me, so I don't have a pit or anything cool like that. We'll see if I get to that kind of thing, but for now, that setup seems to work. And of course, the keyboard, and then we're using the HP Reverb, I think G2 or whatever it is, as my VR headset. I will tell you that some of the limitations of the VR, obviously it's better than a flat screen for depth perception, but this thing I want to say has about a 60 degree or maybe slightly more field of view. It's better than the Oculus I was using, my old Oculus, but there's no periphery and the depth perception's not perfect. So my sight pictures on a lot of the landings are a little off. I also found out that all the F-15 hours have caused me, I tend to fly a little drug in terms of as I get close to the runway, I'm going to round out a little bit and then flare, and you don't do that on the carrier. So you'll watch me a little bit with my aim point. I'll struggle with it end game to try to keep it where it needs to be in terms of landing on the wires there. Also, I will say I'm going to have a mix of language here, so don't get too bent if I'm not calling things the right thing. Some of it will be Eagle terms, some of it will be Navy terms, probably not very many, and some of it will just be making crap up as I go. So if you have any corrections to what I'm saying, let me know, and I'll talk about it as we go. All right, let's do this. First thing I learned I have to do is I have to shift, you can see my hand move, and I have to shift the throttle a little bit because when I start, it's in full throttle. So we'll go ahead and put the hook down. Look how big that handle is. That kind of threw me right there. And then we've got the gear handle, and we'll go ahead and put the flaps all the way full and anti-skid off. All right. So we're slowing down. Go ahead and do a little trim forward here, because as you drop all the flaps, does this have slats? I think it does, although I don't. Yeah, they are down a little bit. So you're going to create a lot of drag slow, because you're creating a lot of lift with all the various lift devices on this airplane. Because you want to land slow. Now, here's the thing I learned right here. You can see that it's very easy to get too slow in this thing. So I'll put the throttle in a certain position. Next thing I'll know, I'll be falling out of the air. The Eagle isn't quite as sensitive because it doesn't have as many lift devices creating drag. So we'll go ahead and come in here and let's go ahead and talk to this carrier, because we can talk to this one. And I've also learned you have to pause a little bit.
019 inbound.
So my trim's a little wacky. A little pulsing of the stick there. So as you guys have talked to me and it helped me out, and I learned, I'm landing on the angle deck here, not straight ahead, which is what I did in my first video, where I was just sort of doing it by braille.
019, request landing.
And I'm already low, so I can already tell by looking at the ball up there. And I'm fast still. So we'll go ahead and creep on in here a little bit. I'm also aiming for the tower, which is not a good plan. And I'm definitely low. See my aim point's just way too, and then of course just too much power here. Yeah, that's a little better. But I'm drug in big time. You can tell because I can't even see the ball. So right off the bat, and I'm fast. So now it's okay, but I'm still a little low. Way low, actually. Okay. So that wasn't perfect in any way. Probably would have been sent around. LSO, is that what he is, I believe? More than likely, he was screaming at me. This is the unapproved version of a touch and go right here. Because I'm relatively light, we're only sitting at about... Where's my fuel? Why can't I find it? 2,000 pounds or so. We can make that happen right there. So a little AB takeoff. So completely unapproved. Ghost Rider, the pattern is full. I don't know if that's what they would say. I'm probably never flying again, actually, after I pulled that stunt, but that's alright. I also probably scared the hell out of a lot of crew, if not ran a bunch of them over. So don't do that. That's not, you know, approved kind of. Alright, so we'll do a little pattern. There's an example of me getting really slow, easily. I'm just putting in way too many throttle, way too large of throttle inputs right here. So roughly 620 feet, a little slow. And this is pretty far out, but we'll go ahead and we'll go wide with pride right here. One of the reasons you kind of don't do that is if you're recovering a lot of aircraft, and for the carrier, it's a tight schedule, man. It's a ballet, and you got to be on schedule and in the right place and doing the right thing. And that's all I got to say about that. So this big wide pattern is probably going to be unapproved. We go a little further here. You can also use the AOA gauge just to the left of the HUD there to determine if you've got the right AOA coming in. There we go. So I'm probably nice and high right here right now. That's not really what you want, because if you're high, you're going to end up with a bunch of descent velocity. And my understanding is you need to aim towards the what they call the crotch right there. Now you can see my tendency just to get low every time, and all of a sudden we've got the red. So that's a little add power action right there. And then once again, once I got it kind of where I wanted to, I bailed out of it. So sort of a recovery, but not great. Actually, we didn't even catch a wire, so it was terrible. We'll just do the old bolter action on this one. Got to work on my patterns here. I want to get up to about 620, but not overshoot by as much as I have been, just like I did right there. Now you're going to get fuel low fuel low warnings on this all the time because I didn't put a lot of fuel on the airplane for the mission that I built. And that's a little bit better. We want to get into the staple here. I'm going to stop losing the altitude too. Try to be maybe a little tighter on this pattern here. Slight descent. See if we can descend out of 500 to more like 520 here. Still a pretty wide pattern, I think. Yeah, we're going to have to actually play this out a bit. Let's work on not this time letting the aim point get out of hand there. I'm telling you, it's a struggle for me to force myself to not look like I'm trying to land long. There we go. So that's better. You can see that the ball is much happier, although that's getting to be a little low. Still low. Now it's gone, so I'm way low. Probably getting waved off right here, actually. And I'm also not center line.
Fuel low. Fuel low.
Did I unhook? So I've had trouble in the past not getting unhooked. So I got to work on the center line. Oops, I need to be full AB or I'm going to hit the waters. Oh, golly. All right, good thing I'm light. It's a good thing I'm light. All right. So how many fuels we got? Yeah, we got a couple more patterns in her. Couple more patterns in her. All right, so let's go ahead. Bring this up to 600. That was better, but it wasn't center line. And I think I'd have been waved off yet again for being too drug in. Alright, this will be a tighter pattern, I hope. I think. Did I start soon enough? I don't know. The runway's trying to get away from me. This is a problem for me. Yep. So I might have been a little late in the turn again. I know that on some of the carriers with the angled tail fan, they use that as an indication when you're looking straight down that angled tail fan. You can, I'm at 700 feet too, which is way high. Maybe that'll help me not get so drug in. I don't know. Okay. Now see the aim point's really low, so I can lose a lot of altitude quickly if I'm not paying attention. Okay, there we go. Let's work keeping the aim point higher, but we need a little less power. There we go. Keep it up there. There we go. That's a much better ball than I've seen so far. And red end game.
Fuel low. Fuel low.
Okay. There, that was way better, I think. Probably still a low score landing, I'm guessing. We should have enough fuel to do this, eh? 990? Yeah, we could flame out. I don't know what the plus or minus on this is, but it was about 400 pounds per engine on the Eagle, so... Or was it 200 something? I can't remember. Plus minus 400 is the number that sticks in my brain. Which means if you had 400 pounds, you either had 800 or 0 or somewhere in between. So we could flame out. It's possible. That means we're going to have a tighter pattern, right? We're worried about flaming out, so also high. There we go. Let's bring this in tighter. Probably need to be closer to the carrier too, so the final turn is more of a turn and not a square. Alright, we need to keep the power up slightly here as we come around. Ooh, high, I think. But velocity vector buried. Alright, let's get her under control. Settle down. Simmer down. Too much power. Oh yeah, that was bad right there. That was a big dip that I didn't need. Again, not center line. Alright. Well, the good news is I didn't ram into the tail fan. Not once. That was a straight through. None of those were pretty, but they're better than they were. And that's kind of the thing about this, which is pretty cool. A couple things interesting to me is the how big this hook handle is. Kind of crazy. Now, is that going to actually show going up? Yep. Pretty cool. Quieter in here. Much quieter. I have a master caution, which somebody's going to have to tell me what. I guess, oh, fuel low. Okay, that makes sense. Can I punch that off? Oh, I can punch it off. Look at that. Very nice. Very nice. All right, cool. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. It was fun not to crash. That's always good. What does this say? Goggles. Oh, that must have been something else. Goggles off or something. Great example, I think, of capability of games or simulations, I guess. In games to some extent, as this is a game as well. To train people concepts and procedures, right? Giving me a general idea of what's going on. Now, if I had an actual naval instructor or a Hornet driver, give me the finer points and start fine-tuning what I'm doing, that would get better and better. And then, obviously, you'd have to actually do it. And that's not a completely different story, but, you know, just because you did it virtually doesn't mean you're going to necessarily be able to do it in the real world. But I'll tell you, if your concepts and procedures are better and you've kind of seen the sight picture and have a general idea of what's going on, you are going to pick it up faster if you have any kind of capability. So let me know what you guys think. Tell me all the errors I made in there. I'm sure there were a bunch. You guys helped me out. You know, the angle deck, I had to land on that. The ball thing took me a while to figure out. The fractal lens, you have to be more or less on the correct glide slope / azimuth for the angle deck. That's why I couldn't see it last time. Learned the whole thing about not having the right carrier out there and all that stuff. And then just goofing around with the AB takeoff, the unauthorized takeoff. But I was trying to figure out a way to do more approaches. What I should do, I think, is I'm going to get into the mission editor again and up my fuel just a little bit. The thing is, as you land over and over again, the landing speed decreases, so you have to kind of adjust for that. I'm still I'm still making too large of inputs. I think to some extent it's the quality of the stick and the throttle. I'll blame it on that. But as I work at it more and more, and really it doesn't really matter. You could be using an Atari joystick. After you use it long enough, you're going to start to get better at adjustments and things like that and learn how to control it. So there you go, guys. Some landings for the F-18. I didn't crash. I promise. There's no editing here. I'm just putting this whole thing out. In fact, I didn't crash when I did the 3 or 4 practice ones I did before it. That's all I've got for Saturday. You guys have a good weekend. We will see ya.